of speaking to Republican Tom Coburn of Oklahoma. Senator, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Glad to be with you, Ezra.
So it seems to me the news of the day is the big deal is dead, completely dead, and we are down to either a small deal, a mini deal, or going over the cliff straight. What is your reaction to this?
I'm not sure that's true. Just talking to my colleagues in the Senate, I think the middle ground's pretty well known by everybody. And I think you could still get something that would be viewed by the rating agencies as well as the American public as a pretty good solution. So I think it's possible. I don't know that that'll happen. It's unfortunate that we're waiting until this late in the hour to try to accomplish something.
So then, what do you see as that middle ground? I know you're a member of the Gang of Eight. I've been surprised actually we've not seen more coming out of ad hoc groups of senators and congressmen. When you talk to your colleagues, what do they see as what can be salvaged here?
Well, let me answer the first part of that. None of us wanted to try to jeopardize what was going on, so we did not intentionally interject, other than very little behind the scenes in terms of saying we need to get something done. As far as specifics, I don't know. There's a range that you can pass in terms of revenues. There's a range in which you can meet on Medicare that I think is solvable in terms of actually creating some savings in Medicare that will secure it, that won't be harmful to seniors. So I think there's the potential for that. I think there's the potential to do some changing with the sequestration in terms of how it's done, so that we don't eliminate good programs and more of the cuts come from those that are not as well functioning or efficient or effective. So I think the mood among the colleagues on both sides of the aisle is they'd like to see something get done, and what that means is whatever comes out that's in that middle ground, we're all going to have things that we don't like about it, but we're going to swallow so that we can do what's best for the country. Now, the question that ought to be asked is, how is it that in this country we would let ourselves get in this position, and where have the grown-ups been to make sure it doesn't happen? And that's the disappointing thing, because it's an abject failure of leadership on everybody's part that we're at this late date and no compromise has been brokered.
Is there an expectation that process you're talking about would be separate from Reid and McConnell's ongoing negotiations? Are people going to wait to see what they do before trying to come forward with something separate?
No, I think they've heard well from their caucuses, and we've been talking across the aisle. I had visits with several of my Democratic colleagues today. We all want to see something getting done, and there's a range in there that everybody kind of knows where we can go, and what I would imagine is that you'll see Reid and McConnell come with something that's within that range, and the president has to say, yeah, I can take this too. And then if we actually lead in the Senate, then we'll see what the House does with it.
What I've had trouble understanding about the congressional Republican strategy in recent weeks is that starting from Plan B and going even into the Reid-McConnell deal, or at least what I'm beginning to hear about it, is that there seems to be a plan now to vote on taxes separate from spending cuts, such that Democrats will be able to pocket some amount of taxes. It is going to be smaller than what President Obama wanted, but is going to come separate from spending cuts, at least at the outset, and then is likely there's going to be another set of negotiations after the new year that will again have both spending cuts and taxes in it. It seems to me that's a recipe for Republicans to end up with Democrats getting a lot more in taxes than they would have gotten all with an upfront deal. Are your colleagues worried about that at all, or are you?
Well, first of all, you're enlightening me on something I'm not aware of. That was not the conversation I had with my colleagues across the aisle, and it wasn't the conversation I had with the minority leader. So you have information that I don't have. Look, you can't solve the problem with taxes. You have to do both. This country is in trouble, fiscally and financially, as well as ratings. And if we don't do something significant, we're going to see another rating cut. And there will become a time when the interest costs we cannot afford. So the question comes is, what is the best thing we can do now, given the political dynamics that are in Washington, that actually makes some difference in the future? And when I say future, I'm talking about our kids and grandkids. What can we do that will actually get us back on the path? You know, one of the things that people don't look at, they compare our debt to GDP ratios, Ezra, but when you actually make a equal comparison to us, to the countries of Europe and around the world, we're actually at about 120% debt to GDP right now. And of course that's internal, external, but external debt, we're over 100 now. So we're in a much worse shape than what we recognize when we talk about the problems that we have. And so I'm willing to do it incrementally. I'm willing to do it all as a big time. What I want to do is solve the problem for the future of our country. And if we do that, and the more we do of it, the more we'll see economic growth start coming. I think we're primed for economic growth, but we have to solve these very real issues to be able to take advantage of the prime.
I agree with you. I think the economy could take off if Washington gets out of the way at this point. Tom Coburn, Senator, Republican Senator from Oklahoma, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Ezra, good to be with you. God bless you.
There